This year, more money will be invested in digital health than in biotech by the venture community. Last year, we topped $4 billion. This year, the expectation is it'll hit about $6.8 billion of venture funds invested. It is the largest category currently being invested in by the venture capital community. And there are lots of players in that arena, lots of names you would all recognize that are making the investments, and a very large percentage of strategic investors are participating in this arena. I mean, would anybody have guessed a couple of years ago that Novartis would team up with Qualcomm, a chip manufacturer, with a major pharmaceutical company, to start a digital health venture fund, which they have and announced. So here we have lots of players in this space and lots of strategic companies making an awful lot of investments. Today, in the US alone, there are over 5,000 digital health companies. And another way to think of it, especially if you're in the CRO business, is that's 5,000 companies that need products validated. On top of those 5,000, you look at other little countries like Finland with 4.5 million people. They have almost 500 digital health companies. Globally, this is one of the fastest growing arenas in terms of new company formation and new product formations that we've ever seen in history. It's kind of outside of just general internet, but in a very focused silo. This is a very, very rapidly growing area, and as you can see by just the number of companies here as an example. And when you look at the investments made by different venture capital, you can see they're not just making one investment, they're making many investments across the entire category.
What is new, though, is in some ways thinking about diseases not just as one entity, but subtypes of diseases. So we don't just have malignant melanoma, but we have a particular DNA variant in melanoma, which is the indication for a new drug, for example. And so that causes incredible challenges for certainly the clinical trials aspect. Which do you learn first, the drug or the subtype? Or the subtype and then a drug, right? So a little bit of a catch-22 there. But really, I think if the approach isn't spectacularly new, what's new is the national attention on this. So President Obama mentions precision medicine, right, in State of the Union address just in January, follows up with the press meeting the following month. Large number, almost more than $200 million now being projected to be spent by the federal government. And Governor Brown, obviously doing this in California, actually mentioned in his State of the State address a year prior, talking about statewide initiatives. So we're looking at a new uptick in terms of spending and an effort here.
In my ideal world, the sponsor and the partners, whomever they are, working together for this extraordinary purpose, would be agnostic as to where they came from. We would actually celebrate each other's strengths, experience, the learning. We would collaborate in a way that was truly focused on the end goal, not the organizations we're paid by. And why is that, for me, so important? And I think it goes down to all of the different models that we've experienced in the different companies, like my former company, AstraZeneca, now Novartis, and looking at Sandoz experience, Alcon's experience, pharma's experience. All of these things distill down. The thing that stands out and differentiates is our ability to work together and to overcome challenges. And this, for me, is a social, interpersonal, emotional intelligence. And we don't talk about it enough in our planning, in how we launch teams. So for me, the ideal world would be about mindset shifting from this commodity service to true partners in innovation focused on patient outcomes.
You know, it can work both ways. You know, by sharing some of your assets, you actually enable a better, broader understanding that creates a benefit, and you're able to develop new intellectual property. So sometimes it's actually, you know, and even going back to the tort lawyer example, you know, in addition to finding issues, it actually may substantiate that something is not an issue, because there's more information out there to really understand what the truth is.
But healthcare is a broad category, is done well. Hopefully, a lot of your 401ks are invested in healthcare to some degree. So it's been a good space, and when that happens, it tends to pull in more capital. What we think is happening, I've now mentioned it a couple of times, is because the biopharma industry is becoming a growth industry again after some lean years. There's growth there. What you're seeing is people are looking at pharma outsourcing as a nice de-risked way to play the same theme. So it's been a fun thing to cover. It's been a nice area for people to invest that don't want to take that risk of that next big drug. It either works and it's a home run, or it's a failure. The other thing that's a lot of fun for all of us is it does provide us with a lot more information. When we've got several companies out there reporting on a quarterly basis, we can see how much growth is out there, what's the profitability of the business, what new models are emerging. So it's a lot more interesting for someone like me versus 5 years ago when it seemed like a lot of companies were going away, so to speak.